So, I usually get along with my mother-in-law, but sometimes we clash. The only relevant time we've had issues was a few years ago, when we were on a family vacation and got into a massive fight. But the long and short of it was, I missed an important family dinner at the restaurant my mother-in-law and father-in-law met at. Usually when I'm on vacation, pretenses, I don't like to schedule stuff out and just explore and have fun, so I got distracted and missed dinner. Last week, I learned that my mother-in-law and all my sisters-in-law are going on a trip to California this summer. Apparently, they planned this since last year, and I was specifically left out of all the planning. My sister-in-law said that my mother-in-law chose not to invite me because of the fight we had about that dinner years ago. I'm the kind of person who likes to deal with things head-on with no petty bees, so I called my mother-in-law up last night. She at first said it wasn't personal. She wanted to plan many activities over the week in Cali, and she knew I wasn't one for the long planned itineraries. I said that was crap, because I could come and still hang out with them at the beach and hotel while going to the planned stuff I chose. She then said that she wouldn't pay for a flight and hotel for me just to choose to stand up to everyone. Things got heated quickly, and she told me that she swore to herself never to pay for another of my trips after ruining her anniversary trip, like I did just because I'm selfish and can't bother to do the things other people want to do. This was complete BS, and I called her out on it. We ended up fighting, and I hung up. I texted all my sisters-in-law, telling them that I was utterly disgusted that they would all leave me out of this, just because my mother-in-law has a petty grudge against me and can't stop being a control freak for 5 seconds. Today, I woke up to text after text telling me to grow up, and she wasn't the only one who didn't want me there. My husband supports me 100W, but apparently he got chewed out by his mother today, and he said now he's staying out of it. So now I'm starting to wonder if calling her out like this was too far and that I should have just been the bigger person. I don't know though. She's paying for the trip so that everyone can spend time together and do activities together. And your position is that you'll pick and choose the activities that you're interested in. If you are the idiot, she doesn't owe you a free trip. Don't forget the fact that the previous trip was to celebrate the in-laws' anniversary, and she couldn't even bother to show up for dinner. I also wonder whether some planned activities require reservations or deposits that would be wasted if little Miss Free Spirit wanders off again. Pup isn't that special, and no one will give her a fully paid vacation so she can do what she wants on their dime. But wait, and where was the husband, the actual son, while she was distracted? Did he go to the dinner while this lady was out? Because she made it sound like she was the only one who missed the anniversary dinner, and then argued with the mother-in-law for missing an important anniversary dinner instead of apologizing. Fly on an anniversary trip funded by the anniversary couple. The entitlement is awe-inspiring. Honey, I've got news for you. It wasn't just about the dinner. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't just that you missed dinner. Your sister-in-law confirmed that it's not just your mother-in-law who doesn't want you there, suggesting bigger issues. And your mother-in-law was apparently right. She wanted to treat people to a trip with a specific itinerary. He confirmed you have no intention of following an itinerary. So there you go. It's not the trip for you. You don't get to demand a free trip on your terms. It's obvious what it was. It seems very rude and abrasive. I'm just brutally honest type for sure. You have an amazing sense of entitlement to think that your mother-in-law is required to invite you and pay for your trip. You may have some point if you are paying your own way, but you're a freeloader who didn't bother to be thankful in the past and is now surprised not to be invited again. Your husband should be standing up to you. He should be calling you out for your poor behavior. Instead, you're aggressively mistreating his family. Obviously, he can't have a frank discussion about these issues because you'll fly off the handle. I feel sorry for him. My husband and I have 2 boys. I have a cat 6, and he has a dog 2. I've never been a dog person. I knew I'd have to overcome my trauma eventually, so after months of harping on me about getting a dog, I allowed it, but it wasn't without protest. I adore some dogs, like my mom's girl, who's hands down probably the best dog on this planet, but in most cases, I truly just don't like them. And it's not the dog's fault, but the owner's lack of training. So when I finally caved and let him get a dog, I clarified that he was to train the dog and that I would not be responsible. He got the dog, she's a healer, 2 weeks ago, and she's a terror. It's 100 my husband's doing. It's not even her fault. She still gets in the garbage, still has accidents inside. Is her anxieties to the point of her whining nonstop and constantly underfoot. She barks and whines whenever she's in the vehicle, and he insists on bringing her everywhere. She's reactive. She's food-driven to the point of excessively sniffing the floors for hours on end and never stops until she tires herself out. She stares at you whining whenever you have food. I was just able to get her to stop nipping faces. For her idea of playing and showing affection, if you go based on what my husband claims, is the problem, but it has admittedly made me feel like I'm held captive in my home. My kids also don't want this dog and never have. But again, it's because of my husband. Well, we found a rent-to-own that my husband desperately wants. He fell madly in love with it. We've been searching for a while, but they've clarified that only 1 pet is allowed. My immediate reaction was, well, this won't work, whereas his reaction was, who can we get to take the cat? I told him I wasn't willing to get rid of my cat so we could keep his untrained dog that no one wanted but him. He thinks I'm an idiot because I don't have the same bond with the cat that he does with the dog. I can see his point, as he has an unhealthy obsession with his dog, and she's the exact same way as him, but I still won't do it. He says this may be the only chance we have for a while to get into a home, which also could be true, but I still stood firm. He won't speak to me and has been snuggling his dog non-stop for 4 days straight. Am I the idiot? I've talked to him until I'm blue in the face about getting her into training, especially due to her being reactive and resource guarding. He outright refuses. He says paying someone that much money is a waste of money when we could just do it ourselves. He won't get her medicated for her anxiety outside of THC chews, which simply do not work. Bro, rehome your husband. You didn't ask him to get rid of his dog. He didn't even ask. He assumed you would get rid of your cat. But the fact that he's an irresponsible dog owner and a selfish man who doesn't care how much his dog annoys his wife and children, who must share a house with them, and how the dog herself is happy because he isn't providing her with a healthy bond and home life. He's the idiot for sure. This is the answer. The husband doesn't respect Dog, and he certainly doesn't care about the children. It's like, if he's keeping a dog that nips at their faces in the house, he even goes so far as to intentionally undo the Op's training. So he's weaponizing the dog against Op, and that's unacceptable. And that dog needs a better owner who's gonna train it. But really, people on this sub constantly complain that people here are always quick to say throw the whole man away. But so many of the men these stories are about appear to have no redeeming factors. It makes me feel like every other OP needs to acquire 3 things: a spine, some higher standards, and a good divorce attorney. My daughter, 31, and her wife, 33, and their son, kindergartner, lives in a different state. I am always the one who goes to visit them in their house because of my daughter-in-law's busy work schedule. My daughter said she wanted to come and see me and her old friends with her family. They're currently renovating their house. They have a home in our city and usually stay there and rarely come over. My daughter asked me if they could stay with me. I said of course. When they arrived, I mentioned that I prepared each of them a different room, one for my daughter, one for my daughter-in-law, and one for my grandson. My daughter said I was being unreasonable and that she wanted to sleep in the same room as her wife. I said I made her brother and his wife do the same thing when they visited, and they never complained. My daughter told my daughter-in-law to arrange for a hotel. Apology, I was really hurt by her decision and said I'd hope she'd just stay, and it was a few days. She said she hadn't slept apart from her wife for 9 years, and wouldn't start doing that now. They left and stayed at the hotel. My daughter is still cold to me, and my friends think I acted like an idiot. Was I the idiot? Info. I had prepped each of them a different room. Why? Why on earth are you making married couples sleep in separate rooms? I think you know the answer here. Mommy wants to exert control over her grown-up children. Up there married with a kid. She's not a teenager you're trying to protect from the atrocity of intimacy at wedlock. But as for your son and his wife, I'm confident that they never openly complained, but had plenty of problems about it behind closed doors and didn't want to confront you about it. I bet the brother and his wife only visited once. And since then, they've just been too busy to visit. Unless your reasoning is, the only guest beds I have are singles, So I made up 3 rooms because I didn't think they'd be comfortable squishing 2 adults into one tiny bed. I have to go with, you are the idiot. Your daughter simply isn't willing to take crap like her brother. For her. I, 40 male, am married to Claire, 39 female. I have 2 children with my late wife who are teens. Claire has a grown son in his 20s. My late wife was Maggie and I still love her and always will. She passed when our 2 kids were 2 and 3 years old. We had discussed the possibility of it happening because she had a job where she put herself at risk to help others. She's still very much part of our story. When Renee was ready to date again, I went into it with some basic points that needed to be okay with a potential partner. Extukrektben hasia eel. I was not looking for a mother for my children. They have a mother and didn't want a relationship where they called someone else mom. Yes, we talked about it. Maggie would always be part of the picture and any partner of mine had to be okay with that. Maggie would not be forgotten or erased because I was ready to date. I also didn't want to have more children. When Claire and I met, she told me all of that was good with her because she had a grown son and didn't want to over, and she respected that I still loved my late wife. She and my kids got along, so I felt good about our relationship. Things were good until last year, when my youngest told me Claire had been making them uncomfortable around Mother's Day, and that she had requested that my child suggest a change of plans, and we did something for her that Mother's Day. Claire was always with her son while the kids and I would visit Maggie's grave, go out for lunch at the diner Maggie and I took them to while she was alive, and we'd chill afterward. Claire wanted us to drop that and never said a thing to me. I brought it up to her and she told me she felt it was time that the kids and I joined her and her son for Mother's Day and embraced the person who was there. I told her she was celebrating with her son while my kids and I were remembering and honoring their mom. She was very closed off, and I told her we needed to speak to a therapist because I could see more was going on. It's taken this long, but since February, she's been opening up and saying how she does want my kids to view her as a mother and how she isn't okay with how things are, with them seeing her as a family but not a parent, and with how much Maggie's still a part of things. She also admitted her relationship with her son is not what she pretended it to be, and she wanted a chance to have a closer adult relationship with my kids and to be the mom of an adult she always thought she would be. I told her she couldn't use my kids to fulfill her wish when they don't want to be a part of it. She told me if I loved her, I would encourage them to at least try, and that I said that to her very dismissively. She told me I was being rude for the sake of being rude. Though the therapist agreed with me, Claire is still hurt about what I said. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, as long as this is what your kids want. The thing is, kids can have more than one kind of parent in their lives. Rather than focus on never replacing their bio mom, you could encourage the 3 of them to form a different kind of relationship, one where she's a trusted adult in their lives, without erasing the essence of your late wife. I can tell you love your kids. However, I also wonder if their reluctance to embrace Claire comes from a place of not wanting to disappoint you. They were tiny when Maggie died and aren't likely to remember much about her, but they instinctively understand your position on this. Being a step-parent is incredibly challenging. You do the work, love the child, often get no authority, and receive very little appreciation. So compassion for Claire is important too. After 13 years, it's very honorable that you're still including your late wife. But at this point, it's also time to let someone in. Someone in and to bond as a family of 5 instead of 3 plus 2. She doesn't want your kids to call her mom, but she wants to have a healthy parental relationship with all 3 kids who she cares for every day. This doesn't sound like a crazy wish, like you're implying. As much as I respect that you were not trying to replace your late wife in your kids' lives, it sounds to me like your late wife takes up way too much space in your marriage. I, 20 female, have an older sister. Jen, 28, and a younger sister. Chloe, nearly an adult, and made our lives a living nightmare. She was rude, reckless, a liar, a thief, everything. She refused to go to therapy and fought our mom every step of the way. None of us could have nice things because Jen would ruin them or the moment. She got into a screaming match with Chloe when she was 11 and Jen was 22. There's so much more she's done, but it's very personal. She was a bad person, full stop. When she was 24, she met her boyfriend, a literal godsend. Jen finally went to therapy, got a degree, and has a job. She's not perfect, but I can't acknowledge the effort as much as I dislike her. And over the past few months, she's been trying to reconnect with the family. Chloe's in full no contact, but Mom and I have been seeing her. I feel like she's been lying to her therapist because she's been told she was the scapegoat. I was the invisible child, and Chloe was the golden child. This couldn't be further from the truth. I'll admit, at the height of Jen's spiral, Mom did assume everything bad was caused by Jen, but that was because it had been years of the same destructive pattern of behavior. Like, yes, Jen, you're an alcoholic. Of course she's going to assume it was you who stole her booze. Or assuming she got fired from her job due to her attitude, which is why she got fired from every job beforehand. Or assuming she was being brought home by the police because she regularly breaks the law. This was never Mom being malicious, but that's what you've come to expect over nearly 10 years. You will make a snap judgment. And her fiancé, Luke, met with me to have coffee and she brought this up. And I'll admit, I laughed in her face. She asked what was wrong, and I said, scapegoat? Seriously? And her nuts. I'm glad you're getting better, but you were a piece of crap growing up? She got really upset and said she was trying to reach out. I said I appreciated it, but she had to acknowledge how much hurt she caused everyone. She stormed out and texted me saying she would not be disrespected like that, and that it took her years to realize the family's dynamic. I also want to clarify that Jen assigned these labels to us, not her therapist. I've learned that respectable therapists don't use terms like these. So my best guess is Jen has pulled this out of her butt while we were meeting, or her therapist reinforced it. Either way, Jen came up with this alignment, making me skeptical of her. Not the idiot. The words were harsh, but they sound like they're spot on. But wording aside, your point was to acknowledge her growth, but also point out that it's not okay to claim victimhood after the fact if it keeps you from taking responsibilities for your actions. It sounds like she's made some strides. Still, if this turns into, seeing I was actually the victim, her progress in therapy have gone sideways and it'll become toxic again. You were right to point that out and ensure she knows you have your own memory of how this went down. Info. What was Jen's life like 13 years before you were aware of the family dynamic or could form memories? A lot of the behaviors you're talking about don't usually spring out of nowhere, and if there was abuse or neglect in Jen's early life, she was probably acting out. The fact that you are the invisible child suggests serious issues stemming from your parents. That's not crass at all. Let's say she had some abusive experience. Then she abuses you and your sister because of that. If she's not responsible for her actions due to abuse, then you're not responsible for your actions due to her abuse. And the person you abuse, because of that, isn't responsible either. Who's responsible after all? When does it stop? You cannot be the bully and the victim in the same relationship.